The Top Hat. When Benjamin was born, everyone thought he looked like a bunny rabbit. "I say," said Benjamin's father, "I've just had a wizzo idea. Let's nickname the little chap Benjamin Bunny." This suggestion was greeted with such hearty laughter, and from that day forward, Benjamin had to suffer the embarrassment of being called Bunny Rabbit in public. His favorite uncle bought him a shiny black top hat for his first birthday present. Nobody could understand why. "Really?" said Uncle Jonathan. "Has nobody ever heard of a magician's top hat?" "Well, of course we have," shrieked Benjamin's mother. "So, what does a magician keep in his hat?" "His head?" chipped in Benjamin's father. Then he realized what a stupid thing that was to say, so he shut up. "A rabbit!" said Uncle Jonathan. "I thought it was obvious. Benjamin's nickname is Rabbit. Rabbits live in top hats, so I've given him a top hat." "Oh," said Benjamin's mother. Then she added, "Yes, well, it's a super present anyway. Thank you, Jonathan. I'll put it in a cupboard until Bunny Rabbit is old enough to wear it." Benjamin, however, had other ideas. The next day, he found the cupboard where his mother had hidden the top hat. He climbed onto a chair, crawled across her newly ironed blouses, and dug it out of her socks at the back of the shelf. When his mother found him, Benjamin was standing in the middle of a crumbled heap of her clothes, with the top hat sitting squarely on his shoulders. His head had completely disappeared up inside it. From that day forward, Benjamin and the top hat could not be separated. They became the best of friends and played together all day long. With the top hat to help him, Benjamin could pretend to be anything, from a circus ringmaster to a rich toff at the opera, from a coachman to the Prince of Wales, from a policeman to a scruffy young pickpocket. He used it as a handy storage jar for his marbles, as a frisbee, although it was an awful flyer in strong winds, as a deep-sea diver's boot, and even as a fishing net for catching tadpoles. There was nothing his top hat could not be or do, and yet all was not right. The hat started to take over Benjamin's life. Benjamin woke up one morning and decided quite suddenly that everything in his room should look like a black top hat. He had a top hat lampshade, a top hat clock, a top hat bed, and even a top hat bath, which was specially made for him by a firm of bespoke plumbers from Savile Row. So unique was the order, in fact, that they presented him with a free top hat toilet as well. He went around the house with a tin of black paint and sloshed it over anything that looked remotely like a top hat. His mother's saucepans, the waste paper baskets, the cat, that was a mistake, his Wellington boots, all the flower pots, and his father's golf club bag. Benjamin's parents became a little concerned. They tried to take his top hat away from him, but Benjamin made it absolutely clear that he could not live without it. He sat in a corner of the sitting room with a lampshade on his head and refused to eat anything until he got his top hat back. It took 3 days, but his parents returned it. Fortunately for them, however, Uncle Jonathan's top hat only lasted for 5 years. Benjamin had worn it every day since his first birthday when, one day, while he was diving off the springboard of the local baths, it simply fell apart. It disintegrated as he hit the water and floated away from him like wreckage from a sunken ship. Then, piece by soggy piece, it sank to the bottom of the pool. Benjamin cried for a week. When he was told that he would have to wait until his next birthday before getting a new one, he locked himself in his room and cried for 10 weeks non-stop. He came out on the morning of his 6th birthday. "Well," he said, "where is it?" Benjamin looked at his mother. His mother looked nervously at his father. His father coughed, smiled, and looked straight back at his mother. Benjamin's mother looked at him. He was still looking at his mother. His mother looked away. "Is something the matter?" said Benjamin. "Bunny Rabbit," said his mother. Benjamin mistrusted her smile. "We haven't been able to find you a new top hat." "They don't make them in your size anymore," added his father hurriedly. There was silence as they waited for Benjamin's reaction. His ears went red first, then the tip of his nose. His eyebrows started to twitch independently of each other. His bottom lip quivered and jutted out so far that his jaw nearly cracked. A tiny little voice squeaked in the back of his throat. "But I wanted one!" Tears streamed down his face as he stamped his foot, turned on his heels, and stormed out of the room. His mother ran after him. "We've organised a lovely party for you instead, Bunny. The conjurer, he's supposed to be very good. We did try to buy you a top hat, but..." She gave up. Benjamin was not listening. He had turned his back on his mother and was climbing the stairs. Halfway up, he stopped. Then, without turning back, he uttered those 4 ugly words that all parents fear the most. "I really hate you," he said. Then he went back into his room and locked the door. At 3:30, the doorbell rang, and Benjamin's mother let the first of the party guests in. 10 minutes later, the sitting room was full of little girls wearing pretty white party dresses and thumping great boys with squeaky clean fingernails and well-scrubbed necks. They were sitting in a circle on the floor, in silence. "I'll just see if Benjamin's ready yet," said his mother cheerfully, as she handed out several more packets of crisps, tripped over a little boy called Martin, laughed nervously, and left the room. Upstairs, Benjamin's father was trying to take the lock off Benjamin's bedroom door. "It's no good," he said to his wife. "I can't open it." Then he put his mouth to the keyhole and said in his sternest voice, "If you don't come out now, Benjamin, I shall break this door down and carry you downstairs over my shoulder." To his surprise, he heard the key turn in the lock. The door opened, and there stood Benjamin, dressed and ready for the party. "Splendid!" said his mother. "Now we can all have fun." Benjamin smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile, and the look in his eyes wasn't a friendly look. Something naughty was going on in his head, and his parents didn't know what. "Hello, everyone!" shouted Benjamin as he ran into the sitting room. "Sorry I'm late, but I've just been feeding my pet spiders, and they've all escaped." The children screamed and leapt off the floor onto the furniture. "They like to hide down the back of the sofa," he continued. "So if you see one, give us a shout." The children screamed again and leapt off the furniture back onto the floor. Benjamin's mother laughed loudly. "Very funny, Bunny," she said, "but you don't keep pet spiders." "No, Mother," replied Benjamin. The other children stopped crying and started to giggle at their own stupidity. "I keep long, pink, slimy worms instead." The scream was deafening as 12 children leapt back onto the sofa. It wobbled, then tumbled over backwards and crushed Benjamin's father's toe as it landed. "Who's got me a present?" demanded Benjamin, standing over the untidy heap of arms and legs. "Me!" came a voice from the bottom. "And me!" shouted several others. "Well, aren't you going to give them to me then?" he said. The children disentangled themselves and clambered over each other to thrust their presents into Benjamin's arms. They waited expectantly as he tore open the wrapping paper. One by one, the excitement on their faces turned to sadness as Benjamin threw their gifts over his shoulder into the wastepaper bin. "These presents are useless," he announced bitterly. "Nobody's bought me a top hat. Thanks for absolutely nothing." Then he went next door into the dining room. Half the children wanted to cry. The other half wanted to go home. "He doesn't mean it," said Benjamin's mother, putting her arms around tiny Martin, who had spent all his pocket money buying Benjamin a Macho Man ground-to-air missile system. "Let's go next door for tea." Benjamin's father, who was sitting on the floor with a sock in one hand and his injured toe in the other, agreed. The doorbell rang as they sat down at the table. Benjamin's father hobbled to the door and answered it. "Good afternoon, sir," said a man in a long red cape and pointy black hat. "Marvin the Marvelous Magician at your service." The magician bowed low, scraping his long white beard along the doorstep. "Thank heavens you arrived," said Benjamin's father, and he opened the door wide to allow Marvin, the marvelous magician, to bring his box of magic tricks into the house. "I hope you don't mind, good sir," said Marvin as he stood in the hall, "but I have taken the liberty of bringing along my assistant today. Perhaps I might be permitted to offer him sanctuary within your hollowed walls?" Benjamin's father looked blankly at the magician. "Oh, of course," said Benjamin's father. "By all means." Back in the dining room, Benjamin's mother was lighting the candles on the birthday cake. It was a large black top hat. The children had all perked up at the sight of it, and they joined in with a spirited chorus of happy birthday. Benjamin sat unmoved at the head of the table, cramming the last of the sausages into his mouth, cocktail sticks and all. When they had finished singing, he blew out the candles and sat back in his chair. "Did you make a wish, Bunny?" said his mother. "Yes," said Benjamin. "I wish that this cake was a real top hat, not a boring old chocolate one." "Well, wishes sometimes come true," she said. "Not this one," replied Benjamin, picking up the cake and squashing it down on top of tiny Martin's head. Martin started to cry again as chocolate ran down his forehead and dripped off the end of his nose. "Otherwise it wouldn't have squished like that, would it?" Benjamin's father's sock suddenly appeared round the edge of the door on the end of Benjamin's father's hand. "It's show time," said the sock. "Take your seats for Marvin, the marvelous magician." Benjamin had decided that the best way to punish his parents for not buying him a new top hat was to not watch the magic show. So he screwed his eyes tightly shut and missed the Indian rope trick, some clever shuffling of a pack of cards, and a trick where Tiny Martin had a rubber egg broken over his head. Martin thought it was a real egg and left the room in tears for the third time. He spent the rest of the party trying to phone his mother to tell her to come pick him up. However, when Marvin the marvelous magician asked for the assistance of the birthday boy, Benjamin reluctantly had to open his eyes and go and stand in front of all his friends. "Have you ever seen a person magic out of thin air, young man?" said the magician. "Yes," replied Benjamin, trying to spoil it for the others. "Ha ha! What a wag!" said Marvelous Marvin crossly. "Now, watch this empty box. I want you to say the magic words with me, and before your very eyes, boys and girls, I shall make my assistant appear in this box, where previously he has not been." Benjamin yawned. "Iggity-wiggity curly-piggly," he muttered, making himself sound as bored as he possibly could. Nothing happened for a second. Then suddenly there was a flash of light inside the box. As the smoke cleared, the shape of a small boy, about Benjamin's height, could clearly be seen crouching inside the box. There was a gasp of amazement as the boy stepped out, and everyone broke into wild applause. Everyone, that is, except Benjamin. He was standing with his mouth wide open, gazing at the top of the boy's head. You can imagine what he saw there, can't you? A shiny black top hat, and it was just the right size. The boy had a pale white face, and a permanently sad expression that made him look older than his 6 years. He was dressed like his father in a red cape, but he was also wearing a silver waistcoat embroidered with stars that glinted underneath the lights. Benjamin saw none of this. His attention was wholly fixed on the top hat. He had to have it, whatever the cost. "Seeing as how you helped me most magnificently with that last trick," said Marvelous Marvin, interrupting Benjamin's thoughts, "and being as you are the birthday boy, you may have any prize you wish." "I'd like his hat, please," said Benjamin without hesitation. The boy assistant looked nervously at his father. "Ah, no, sadly not the hat. Anything but that top hat," replied Marvelous Marvin quickly. "It has been in my family for hundreds of years and contains all our magic. If we parted with that hat, we would no longer be magicians. Choose again, young Benjamin." The room had gone quiet. Benjamin took a step forward. "I must have that top hat," he said. "And my father said no," the pale-faced boy spoke for the first time. "You have not been taught how to control its magic. It would be too dangerous." Benjamin flashed a glance at his parents, who were standing at the back of the room. He had a free run to the door if he chose to. Yes! He darted forward and seized the top hat off the boy's head. The hat twisted in his hand as if alive and fell from his grasp. It wriggled across the carpet towards the magic box, but Benjamin was too quick for it. He snatched it up, tucked it under his arm, bolted upstairs to his bedroom, and locked the door. Marvelous Marvin and his son had not even moved. Benjamin sat in his bed and stroked the top hat. He remembered blowing out the candles on his cake and thought, "Perhaps wishes do come true after all. This is the most beautiful top hat I have ever seen." Then he went over to the mirror and raised the hat above his head. There was a furious banging on the door. It was the magician and his son. "Don't put the hat on!" they were shouting. "Whatever you do, don't put the hat on your head!" But they were too late. The top hat was a perfect fit. It sat like a magnificent black pillar on the top of Benjamin's head. Then, as he was admiring it in the mirror, something very strange happened. The hat moved, just as it had done when Benjamin had stolen it from the boy downstairs. It wiggled and squirmed on his head, as if an animal were trapped inside. He took the hat off and turned it over. A large white rabbit hopped out. It bunted across the bedroom floor and hid underneath the bed. Benjamin looked inside the hat for a secret panel or a false bottom, but the hat was solid. He put it back on his head, and almost immediately it jiggled again. The cries from the landing were becoming more insistent. Benjamin's parents had joined the magician and his son. "Throw the hat out of the window, Bunny!" shouted his mother anxiously. "Push it under the door!" added his father. Everyone glowered at him. Top hats do not naturally slide underneath doors. Benjamin had discovered that if he wished for something hard enough while he was wearing the hat, it would appear seconds later from inside the hat. "I wish I had a 10-speed racing bike," he thought, holding the top hat tightly over his ears. A small metal bar dug into the back of his neck. An oily chain stuck to his hair, and Benjamin only just got the hat off in time before a silver bicycle popped out onto the floor. On the landing, Marvelous Marvin was trying to batter down the bedroom door with his shoulder. "Do mind the paintwork," pleaded Benjamin's father. "My good sir," said the magician haughtily, "if we don't get this door open in the next 60 seconds and get that hat off your son's head, I will not be held responsible for the consequences." "Oh," said Benjamin's father. "I see. Well, what are we waiting for?" And he launched a massive kick at the door with his good right foot and bruised his other toe. In the bedroom, Benjamin was getting greedy. The mountain of toys was growing. Amongst other things, he had wished for 2 dogs, a pony, an electric car, a paddling pool full of lemonade, a Wendy house, a motorboat, and 65 top hats. But there was no room left to move. As he put the top hat on again and wondered what to wish for next, the door burst open, and Marvin the Marvelous Magician, his son with the pale face, and Benjamin's parents tumbled into the room. They all looked furious. Benjamin was suddenly afraid. "I wish I wasn't here," he said, and then he realized what he had done. The magic top hat was still on his head. There was a terrible rumbling from deep inside the hat's silk lining. Then a ripping and tearing as something fought to get out. There was a blast of hot air. The hat flew off Benjamin's head, and a giant hand with 5 enormous fingers burst out into the room. The magician's son shouted to Benjamin, "I warned you not to meddle with powers you don't understand!" But Benjamin did not hear him. The hand had swooped down, picked him up by the scruff of his neck, and scuttled back into the shiny black top hat. Benjamin never reappeared. Marvin the Marvelous Magician tried to conjure up the hand again, but he had no luck. Benjamin had been too greedy and had used up all the hat's magic powers. It's a sad fact, but nowadays, the only thing that ever comes out of that particular magician's top hat was a teeny tiny voice that sounds just like Benjamin, trying to say sorry.